Tonight's short film was created for the website fatherly.com by two of our alums, and I'd like to invite them up here before we screen the short and then the feature for a little brief Q&A with them. And we have a student moderator from SVA who will be moderating both Q&As. Gabe Aguirre from the BFA Computer Art program will be joining them. So let's bring up Adam Banicki and Lucas Groth, who created the short, and Gabe, and as they come up, I'll read their bios. Adam is Fatherly.com's VP of Video. He was formerly the exec producer of short-form video at Vice Media and has also worked with New York Magazine and Business Insider. Ranging from long and medium-form documentaries to short-form franchises, Adam's work is focused on cross-platform storytelling to reach a wide range of audiences. His work has won a Webby and has been nominated for other awards. Lucas Groth is a documentary editor whose work has appeared at film festivals nationally and internationally and has been broadcast on PBS, Sundance Channel, and more. He is currently editing a documentary that will air on MSNBC this fall. The short film is basically called Desmond Is Amazing. I don't know if you're aware of the drag kid, Desmond Is Amazing, but it's a movie about him, and I felt it was in line with the This Is Me sort of mentality of Greatest Showman. So please welcome Lucas, Adam, and Gabe.
So first I want to congratulate you two on the work of the short, and welcome back to SVA.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you to SVA After School Special. Thank you to MFA Sock Doc for educating us. Yeah.
I want to ask, where did the idea for interviewing Desmond come from?
So we were doing a theme week at Fatherly called Raising Boys, and we wanted to empower our Fatherly audience, our dads, to see a wide range of ways to raise young men. And so it actually began as an editorial idea, and they were doing a written piece on Desmond, and the author of the story told me about it, and I was like, this kid seems amazing. Desmond is amazing. Like, can we do a video about him? And it just sort of like took off from there.
All right, that's great. And as the VP of Video at Fatherly and a video editor, I know you guys take a lot of pride in the work you do. How do you feel about the response that the project received? I saw on YouTube there was like more like thumbs down than thumbs up, but I think that like the more people that see it,
we were just talking about this in the room before the screening that the comments on that, particularly recently, are so negative from people who clearly do not watch it or listen to the things that Desmond and his family have to say about the ways that he chooses to express himself. And so that can be a little disheartening. But Adam made a good point in that when you see the negative comments like that, it really reinforces the reason to make this type of content.
Yeah, I think like, I should say it actually started out overwhelmingly positive, and unfortunately the awfulness of the internet took over and it did go to the negative side, and I've deleted probably well over 100 comments that are even threatening or what have you. But again, like to what Lucas just said, it really does reinforce why this is so important to sort of like show these stories of sort of encouraging your kids to grow up to be who they want to be.
Very true, very true. And working for Fatherly, are you two actually fathers?
Well, I don't work for Fatherly. I'm a freelance editor. I am not a father, but I do have a 3-year-old dog. His name is Todd. You can follow him. Oh My Todd is his Instagram handle. He's very cute.
No, I'm not a father either. I also have a dog that I treat as a child. But no, I think like. One of the great things that I'm able to do overseeing a team at a male parenting site is I have a lot of dads on my team. The host of the short Desmond Is Amazing that you'll see is a dad, and he brings that fatherly presence. Luckily, I'm in a place where I can empower him to sort of like go out and help tell this story, and then bring on people like Lucas that I know I can trust to sort of make this the strongest piece possible. But yes, we're always, looking to put dads on.
He makes a lot of great points.
As like help them give us their expertise whenever possible.
Yeah, everyone should visit the website. It has a lot of great content. And so I know you guys didn't come to SVA for your BFA. You came for their MFA in social documentary. Just want to know, why did you choose SVA as opposed to any other college?
I mean, for me, it was, I looked at specifically nonfiction documentary programs across the country.
Same.
And it's like, what better place than New York City? Like, this is the documentary capital of the world, arguably. The program itself is taught by Academy Award winners, Emmy winners, like just the best documentary filmmakers in New York City also happen to teach at this program. And so I think Lucas and I both came into the program like trying to figure out what we wanted to do in documentary, but we knew we wanted to work in documentary, and this program is so incredible for sort of figuring out where you want to go in the industry. Like if I thought I was going to be working more on like the business side of creating documentaries where like I'm like, oh, I need this to be a really good piece, I'm going to hire Lucas, like I don't think I would have predicted that 5 years ago, but the program set me up to be able to do that.
Right, yeah, I absolutely agree. I think first and foremost, from meeting with faculty members and current students when I was applying, I got a really great sense of community that I felt like I would become a part of. In addition to that, I feel like there's a huge focus on creativity and on expression. That is what I was looking for. You know, as an artist, I'm looking for an outlet for the things that are going on in my head. And even though I'm using Desmond's words and his father's words and the host JDS's words, it's also an expression of myself in the work that I do. And I feel like the SocDoc program was able to really help me cultivate that in my work.
And I should say, like, just to like add on to that, like leaving the grad program and getting to work with Lucas on a number, like Lucas and I also worked on projects together at Vice, like it is the most satisfying thing to be able to work with your friends that you've sort of like built this community with. There's just like a level of trust there. Like we spent 2 years in the trenches, like getting an MFA together that like literally had blood, sweat, and tears on it by the time we were finished.
Beer.
Yeah, and and it just like that opportunity, like anytime I probably send Lucas an email every few months, I'm like, what's your schedule like? Can you work on this project with me? And it's just like that like hope and desire to always work together is so incredible. It's like any SVA people here that are, hoping to like work with their friends after, like make it happen. The people that you're with every day now will be the people that you'll want to work with later.
So you would agree that SVA did prepare you for success, like prepare you to work in this industry, and
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the biggest thing that I learned in school was not like how to cut from one shot to the next. It's how do you work with someone.
Yeah, that's learning the same as well. And at the end of your 2-year degree, did you have a thesis? And did you work together, or is it just?
We actually did work together on our theses.
Wow.
Like it's not a requirement or at least at the time, it was not a requirement that we work together. But being that we found early in the program that we worked together, we kind of co-produced each other's, short documentary thesis films.
We were actually like the mean girls of our department. We were both TAs together, and like we would like nail people down for like, you are not following the proper workflow of our server system. Like, but like it was like we formed an initial bond that then like, oh, like we're spending 80 hours a week together. Like, why don't we work on each other's projects as well? It was a natural fit.
Oh, that's great. And I want to thank you guys again for coming here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Hope
thank you all
enjoy.
for coming as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys. So all 3 of these women graduated from our undergraduate computer art, computer animation, and visual effects program. Jasmine Carruthers, who's right there, Jasmine, was born and raised in Queens. After graduating from SVA, she interned for Brainstorm Digital as a digital compositor and joined their staff shortly after. When she's not at Brainstorm, she's probably working on personal projects, painting, gardening, making music, or petting her cats. Mina Choe is a digital compositor from Seoul, now based in New York. She uses a digital toolset in Nuke from the Foundry to create photorealistic visual effects. After SVA, she joined Brainstorm Digital, working on films such as The Wolf of Wall Street, Annie, The Lost City of Z, Wonder Wheel, and more. She's an avid traveler and silversmith, making jewelry with silver and gemstones. And finally, Elana Lederman on our end here is a Houdini FX artist based in New York. Since graduating from SVA, she has worked on a variety of film, television, and commercial projects. Please welcome Elana, Mina, and Jasmine.
So guys, I want to congratulate you again and welcome back to SVA.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so I want to start off with what everybody else in the audience is thinking, but at least myself. Did any of you get to meet Hugh Jackman?
Sadly, no.
No.
And that's because Brainstorm Digital is a post-production company. So that means you're never actually on set. Is that correct?
Exactly. We usually have an on-set supervisor that will go and supervise visual effects there, but when we're in our studio, we don't usually get to meet any, actors or directors.
So unless you're a supervisor who can actually contribute to the film set, then you get to go to meet actors and be in the scene. But like us, we are compositors sitting in the office making
so no selfies or autographs.
Sit on a computer all day, basically.
Okay, cool.
Love it though.
Yeah, that's same. Do you guys have any favorite shots from the film? I mean, I could name one of mine.
I think one of my favorite shots was working on the last scene when the girls are in the ballet and they're doing the last dance. And I don't think it's my favorite because of the workload or I guess how technically difficult it was, but it was the magic of seeing it on the screen and realizing that it was the last scene. Because when we're working on scenes, we don't usually know the context or when they occur in the film. So to see it as the last scene was really special to me. So that's why it's my favorite.
Oh, that sounds great.
I think I actually dislike that scene because it was such a pain for me. But my favorite scene, it's a really little thing that most people don't notice that I worked on. There was two people talking, and in the background, a guy was trying to open a little bank. And he opens it, and all the coins go flying. And it's literally just this one small detail in the back, but just every time.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
When O'Malley is, right?
Yeah. And so I always really liked that just because of how detail oriented the whole project was. They really worked on every single little thing that they could.
Cool.
Yeah. One of my favorite shots is that when they're all dancing in the middle of the street and snow is just pouring, and I remember how hard Elana worked on that shot, and we combed the snow she created and into the live action footage. And I don't know, because of that memory, we worked hard on that. That I guess that's my favorite shot in the movie.
Cool. Well, my favorite shot, I believe, is a Brainstorm Digital shot. It was when towards the end when P.T. Barnum's he goes up to Charity and they're at the beach and her scarf is blowing in the wind. I don't know if you guys are big on movies, but that really reminded me of Singing in the Rain from 1952 when if anyone in the audience is familiar with Singing in the Rain, when Gene Kelly and Sid Charisse they have this ballet this dance together, and when she's presented, her scarf is blowing in the wind, similar to that scene.
Yeah, and I also think it's that shot in particular is a testament to how, it's these little tiny details that some people want to portray or they want to make better, because obviously that the scarf did not look like that when it was shot, so they had to do it completely separately. And it's a detail that maybe people wouldn't think is a visual effects thing, but something as small as that can be.
Cool. What is it? One of One of my favorite quotes from the film was actually, "Comfort is the enemy of progress." I think that could relate a lot to computer artwork as well as many other things. I'm kind of curious how you guys, when like deadlines are coming and everything's crazy, how do you stay inspired or motivated to get to push forward?
I know for me, it can be really tough, like with the deadlines and with pressure. And as a small, like being in a small company, we could have a lot more weight on our shoulders than, maybe other people. But I think that what keeps me motivated is that feeling of accomplishment, is when it's finished and I get to have that feeling that I did that and I can see it on the big screen, and there's nothing better than that feeling.
Yeah, I think that's definitely holds true for me as well. I mean, I got into visual effects because I like making things. And so when you actually have that finished product at the end, it's so satisfying and worth it.
And also working as a team, if I am tight in the time, we can always get help from great coworkers, friends, and sense of that working together really helps in that time pressure whenever station is like that. And that's always good that you can always depend on your coworkers that build relationship from like school, Jasmine, Elana is definitely that. And,
I feel that at SVA in the computer art department, they really push teamwork and really like building a strong community. Do you feel that way at Brainstorm? Or do you feel like, did SVA prepare you for success or working in the field after graduation?
I think it definitely prepared me, but I would say that nothing can really prepare you until you go and do it. It can definitely give you the building blocks that you need to have when you go into this industry, but it's only when you start do you really start to grow and build these special relationships with people. But yeah, I think SVA definitely was a great starting point with creating those relationships and friendships with with your professors and with your peers.
Yeah, and definitely. I think the course I was in definitely prepared me to get into this industry and my job here too. Because how I got hired in Brainstorm is that I met Glenn, who's VFX supervisor and the owner and founder of Brainstorm in Portfolio Night. A lot of people come to the Portfolio Night to find new talent and new blood to their company. And I met Glenn there, and that's how I started in this industry. And so I'm definitely, whole SVA experience in computer art definitely prepared me to be here. And yeah, for sure.
Wow, that sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially in the computer art program where they have thesis projects and they encourage you to work with underclassmen to get some experience. It was great for me coming into Brainstorm because I actually came in there after I had graduated and been at a lot of other companies, and suddenly I was there with other SVA grads, and there were already people that I knew I could work with and that I liked. And they just had a really great sense of teamwork there.
Well, now that the audience has an idea of what Brainstorm Digital is about, could you mention some of the other projects, films, TV series that they've worked on, or your favorite?
I would say my favorite and the one that I was most excited about was working on Hereditary, just because it seemed like this very low-key indie film that had it had big stars, but we didn't have any idea about what it was going to be, or we knew it was a horror film, but really knew nothing about it. And then the trailer came out, and I discovered it was an A24 film, and that was like one of my dreams, to work on a horror film in an A24 film, and I got it in one, so that was a pleasant surprise. So I'd have to say that's one of my favorites.
Cool.
My favorite film that I worked on is actually my very first film like right after graduation here, I got to work on Wolf of Wall Street. I think that was my biggest movie that I can work for, actually. I mean, it has been. So that one, so I was very, very honored to work on that project right after school without having that much industry experience. I started as small, I was given small tasks to begin with, but as that film project has progressed, I was given better, more difficult shots too. So that I grew my ability as a compositor a lot with that film, and it's a great film anyway. So that's my favorite film that I worked on in Brainstorm Digital, and yes.
I think my favorite project was Papillon. I came in, I think, on the last 3 weeks that we were working on the project was when I got hired. And so I was just thrown into a whole bunch of scenes, some of which were already half done, some of which I had to do on a really quick turnaround. And being that I was the only CG artist in the office, it was a lot of pressure. And the fact that I think everything came out well, I managed the work, made it a really good experience for me.
Oh, cool. And Jasmine and Mina, you're both staff at Brainstorm Digital, and Elana is freelance.
Yeah, I was staff there for a while, but now I'm freelancer.
Okay. Were you freelance straight out of college after graduation?
I was. I took an internship the summer after I graduated, and I actually was offered a full-time job, but at the time, I wasn't sure what direction I wanted to go, whether I wanted to just be a CG generalist or if I wanted to be a Houdini artist. And so I decided that I wanted to go more the Houdini route. And that didn't really work out with that company, so I went to freelancing and just discovered that I like it. I like the variety of the work, meeting tons of new people. And so that's what I've been doing with a detour at Brainstorm for a while.
Yeah, cool. Well, it seems like it's been working out.
Mm-hmm.
And before we watched the reel, you mentioned working on a thesis. When was the last time you guys watched your thesis? And do you ever look back and say, "Wow, I've come such a long way"?
I feel like I may have seen my thesis a couple months ago, and I have mixed emotions when I watch it. Mostly because I feel like the shots I did that took me a year to complete could have taken me maybe 2 weeks now, which is crazy to think about because it was like, so much hard work when you're in the thick of it at SVA during the crunch time thesis and everything. But I mean, I'm proud of it. There are parts I cringe because I'm like, oh gosh, that could have been so much better. But overall, yeah, I think, I did my best, and that reflects that, I think.
Great.
I think it's been a year or two that I've watched my thesis. And I think like a year or two after I graduated, I did not want to watch it at all. I wasn't very confident in my work, I guess. But I watched it, like a year or two ago. I actually kind of liked it, and I was kind of proud of what I've done without knowing much, I think. And I don't think anyone knows my thesis. My thesis was more I built a set that's built with cardboard. So it was like a lens, like a cityscape with the cardboard, and I had this 2D animation character. So it was sort of kind of different from what I'm doing as my job, but I kind of missed that sort of creativity that I was able to pursue in SVA, and I feel like I want to sort of do it more. That's how I felt like the last time I watched my thesis. And
yeah,
yes.
Do you feel being a freelance, there's more artistic freedom as opposed to a staff job?
No, I think the artistic freedom is about the same, but you get a lot more variety of the work because you can choose your projects, assuming you have enough jobs available. And you can be at different companies with different environments and different focuses. So not necessarily artistic freedom, but a lot more variety. So, and I can't even look at my thesis. I had like almost as soon as we finished, I think I was like, I've learned so much, and I wish I knew this at the beginning. And so it's hard to look at this point, even though I was so proud of it when I finished. So.
Yeah. Did all three of you work solo, or were you grouped?
I was solo. It was
Solo?
just
Solo. But I had other people helping me with it.
Oh yeah,
So.
it becomes very collaborative.
I had a partner, which was my best friend at the time.
Oh.
But we also had a lot of help from other people too.
Oh, cool. And one last question before we open it up to the audience. But have you guys ever been to the circus?
You know what? That I have been, and I used to go a lot when I was young. So I remember when the news came out that it was going to be over, that they weren't going to do the museum anymore. I mean, not museum, the circus.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, like, wow, that's so crazy. I had so many memories from it. And then this film came out, and it felt like full circle, you know, because I got the joy. I felt when I watched the film that joy that I had, and remembered what it was like when I used to go. So I thought that was a crazy, like, series of events that happened.
I haven't.
No?
No.
Well, we got to find a circus for you then.
Yeah. I think I went to the Big Apple years and years ago. But so we're gonna. If anybody has a question, we have runners with microphones, and
Great. I've got great news for y'all. You can meet and get autographs and selfies with Hugh Jackman. Every time he does a Broadway play here in New York, he's one of the most generous individuals. And before and after every one of his shows, he meets and greets the audience. They line up nicely, and he takes selfies with them. He gives, now his autograph, you may be a little disappointed, is an H and a J. He gives 2 initials. But my question for y'all is, do you feel like heroes? You saved so many humans when they had the tent scene and all the performers were there in the vicinity of those huge ferocious lions and all the audience were just leaning in. You saved hundreds, if not thousands, of humans. Do you feel like heroes when you do the animation? And one other thing with Zac Efron, when he went up with Zendaya on that rope, I was saying, please hang on. It looked like he was going up 3 stories, and then all of a sudden he himself just released himself and just kind of plopped down, no problem. So I feel like y'all are heroes with your animation.
I don't feel like a hero, but I do feel like VFX really helps pull everything together, because there are so many things that you look at and you think it's live action, but nowadays half of it's what we do. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would say I'm an actor's hero, but I feel like the director's hero at some times because, you know, sometimes the director wants something that he just can't have because of money or whatever it is, circumstance, time, and, you know, we get to do what they wanted initially, but after the fact, which I think is really cool.
So I'm curious whether there is a difference in the process between creating the more photorealistic visual effects, and obviously in this film there are a bunch of overtly spectacular effects. Is there any different process that goes between creating those two?
I wouldn't necessarily say that it's different. I would say, I mean, yeah, it's different, but it's still, I would say one could be a little bit more complicated, or, you know, when things are more fantastical than that, I feel like there could be a lot more back and forth between the director and producer, because they may have this specific vision as to what they are imagining. But when you're making something photorealistic, there's not really too much imagination in that sense. So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's just a matter of taste, of what director wants, like what does he wants to be this scene, like aesthetically. Like if the visual effect is very photorealistic to very realistic, it could be kind of trying, because our eyes are so used to very something like commercial, very candy-like images. So I feel like in this film there are a good mix in between that kind of effect and more like very photorealistic effect that could be kind of boring to regular audience, I feel like. Yes.
I think for me, I find the photorealistic stuff harder to do, actually. Especially, I do a lot of environmental effects like snow, and if they want something stylized, you can play around with it a lot. But if it's realistic, it has to be perfect, or else people are going to know that it's fake. So that's definitely
tricked me. I could imagine like you guys were putting down leaves and simulating snow and fire, and the train in the background wasn't even there.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned earlier the shot that Jasmine liked, I thought was a pain. And the reason was because we had 4 shots like that. One of them had a snow machine in it, and the other 3 had nothing. So I had to actually match the snow, which was the hardest thing to do, whereas in other shots, I could just create something and nobody would know any different. It wasn't matching any other thing. So definitely harder when it's realistic for me.
You mentioned singing in the rain. Was that also a visual effect with her kerchief, or that was a wind machine? In that
Definitely
film?
a wind machine.
That was a wind machine. It wasn't like Gone with the Wind, when they did Gone with the Wind with visual effects. Okay.
Hi, congratulations. So I'm sure it takes a lot of time and effort to make one of those scenes happen. So how do you know when you're finished and satisfied with it?
I would say it's when our boss tells us he's satisfied with it.
Yeah.
I mean, there are times where I will be so nitpicky about something, and I will see this mistake and be this perfectionist, and then my boss will tell me, look, like, he may not even notice it, or say, look, you put as much effort into this as you could. Like, it's this tiny thing that probably no one will notice, so don't freak out too much about it. But yeah, I mean, it can definitely vary.
I feel like you sort of learn that through the experience as well. I think as you work on it more and you have more experience, you just you have that eyes that, because you can go in the detail in the pixel wise, and you can just go forever to perfect that thing, but we have to find a balance in between this time and to be realistic, I mean image wise. So I feel like you sort of develop that sense as you work in professional environment, and of course your boss supervisor is always find your mistake or says that's enough as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and there's always a lot of revisions in the middle of things where we'll send it off to the director, so it's not like we're doing it once and then sending it off and it's done. So it really is sort of when the director says it's done,
Yeah, if the client's happy, that's kind of all that matters, right?
Yeah.
I actually have a question. You're 3 clearly brilliant women who are on the panel. Is the field of VFX generally one that you find that's balanced, or is it more women? Is it more men? Are you finding that there is any issues with that in the field?
I personally, at Brainstorm, I don't feel that way too much. I feel like we always have a balance of women that come in, but I think I can only speak for myself. When I graduated, I didn't work at many studios. I basically went straight to Brainstorm, so I'm very fortunate to feel that way.
At least for effects specifically within CG, there are almost no women. I think I only know one other female effects artist in New York, so I'm pretty much used to being one of the guys. But yeah, Brainstorm definitely has I think it's almost 50-50 balance there.
Yes.
Yeah. And it just depends from company to company, but I haven't had any bad experiences yet.
I feel like the nature of compositor, I feel like there are a lot of women, especially compared to like CG. I think compositor, definitely there are like women in like 50 and 50. I guess that's like we are very, yeah, I think, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's definitely getting better as time goes on.
What was the most difficult effect you had to do for this particular film?
The most challenging one was probably the one that Elana mentioned of the coin box exploding because I was working on that with her. And I would say that it was challenging because there were just so many revisions, so many different like simulations, different looks, different, the way the coins shined as they flew, how many flew in whatever direction, like going back and forth was, it could, like at times it was very tedious and kind of like, oh really, like we have to do this one again, like, but you know, I think it's not always technically how difficult, but sometimes shots can bring more like strain or, you know, like, I guess you feel like you're putting in so much effort and you're not getting the results you want, and that can be really frustrating.
For me, it was the scene where they're singing and dancing outside, and there's the snow blowing everywhere. And that was difficult for me, not because like the particle effects or the snow was actually difficult, but there were like 30 shots, and I had to match the snow in every shot from different perspectives, and it gets tricky because what looks good in one direction might not look good in another one, and you have to sort of cheat things a lot. So that one was definitely challenging.
My shot that was most challenging was when we saw so Barnum was walking to the castle, the house, and we changed the whole sky and the grass and the trees, and the carriage is going in front. So it's shot actually 3 different live action footage, and I have to combine those 3. And on top of that, I had to comp all this greenery and sky. You gotta extract this bright sky to put cloud and all these tiny branches and something like that. But it's all matter of how you solve the problem, I feel like. Yeah. There's no right answer, but you just have to get there efficiently.
Yeah, which happens over time.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if it was a brainstorm digital shot, but I can imagine one of the difficult ones was towards the beginning when P.T. Barnum lifts Charity, when they're singing and dancing on the roof, and was it all the blankets that were being hung, I guess, to dry, lifted at the same time as she lifted?
I know we worked on some shots in that scene.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% positive we worked on it, but if they did it like on set, that was definitely hard work. Yeah. Yeah.
True.
So I know you've touched on this a little bit already, but I guess, do you have any anecdotes or advice for getting started in the film industry in New York out of school?
I have some advice. Being a freelancer, networking is like, it's such a cliche at this point, but I've gotten so many jobs just from going to industry events and talking to people. You know, it may not become something immediately, but, you know, I talked to someone at a party, and then 8 months later they said, oh, hey, we have this job. And they think of you because they already know one person, and that gets your foot in the door, really. And the other thing is just don't be afraid to put yourself out there. So I'm kind of a nerd. I have a spreadsheet, and it has a list of tons of companies in New York, and I've emailed every single one of them. Most of them more than once, and a lot of them don't respond, but sometimes, again, they do respond, or when they actually need somebody, they'll respond, even if it's not right then. And if you don't put yourself out there, they have no idea that you're there.
I would say, like, number one thing would be to never be a jerk to somebody, because you never know, like, the person sitting next to you could be your boss, like, in a couple of years. You really never know. And also, I would even say to just not be a jerk, even when you're in situations that don't involve networking necessarily. Like, you know, for me, I always was very open and would spark conversation with my professors and my peers and things like that, even though I'm not, like, I'm just a really, like, insecure and anxious person. So I always knew that I had to put myself out there a little bit more, and it would take a lot more energy and effort for me to do that. But just being nice and being, like, honest and being myself, I think propelled me forward more than like anything. And I believe that any company would take someone that's talented but nice over someone that's more talented and maybe not as, pleasant.
Definitely. My advice is that it's not just to you, but I think the reason why I decide to be here and speak in front of people is that when I was in school, not because I'm not from here, I feel like I was always sort of outsider. And there are a lot of international students in SVA, I feel like. And I was just very, very nervous and not confident in myself at all about, I guess, the language, just communication skill, and my work in some part. But I really just have to trust myself just to go for this industry. And I really didn't really know what I was doing. I just looked straight and just went for it. I feel like I had to do it, and I think that's very important that you just really have to trust yourself that you can do that, because you can. I think that's good mindset, and of course, all networking, of course, is very important, and be a genuinely nice person. I really feel that just working at one place, I see a lot of people come and go, and I really value the people with a lot of positivity over technically perfect. Yes.
Great. Well, I want to thank Elana, Mina, Jasmine, and Gabe. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for coming. Tomorrow night we have